Good morning, everyone. We will be getting started in a minute, letting people trickle in, but I'd like to introduce the chair of the MLC board, Holly, and she will introduce our speaker today.
Thanks, Andy. Let me know when everyone's admitted in and we'll get rolling here.
Yep, we should be, everyone who had lined up
Okay.
are in.
All right. Well, you know, time is precious, and happy Friday, everyone. Looks like another beautiful weekend in our gorgeous state of Michigan. I hope everyone got a chance to get outside yesterday in the 70-degree weather. And today, Friday morning, we are again having a coffee chat with a subject matter expert who has been an integral part of sustaining the MLC as an organization over the last couple of years. Kevin Olds was part of the board up until last August. He did a great job with the events, working through the events through COVID. And now he is also participating. He's rolled off the board, but now he's giving us value in things like coffee chat. So Kevin works for the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center up in Traverse City. And just adore Kevin and the work he does. And I can't wait for him to share information on tips and tricks of Gemba walks. So Kevin, take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Holly, and welcome everyone. First of all, happy Veterans Day to any veterans that we've got on the call. I myself am a veteran. I was in the Navy for 10 years, so today's kind of a special day for me.
Yes.
Thanks for
happy your service.
Thank you
for your service, sir.
So happy Veterans Day if there's any other veterans on the call today. I do have a few slides really, but more importantly, I want to just kind of have an open conversation around your experiences with Gemba walks and stuff like that. Andy, is it all right if I remove the spotlight so that I can like just see everyone's shiny, happy faces?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd rather do that than have my big head on the screen. Nobody wants my big head on the screen. So, first thing, I have some polls to do as kind of an icebreaker in Zoom. I don't know if you guys have ever done polling in Zoom. So the first one's kind of a fun one. The second one is more topic related. So first poll here, it'll show up on your screen. You just pick your selection. So what is your favorite Thanksgiving food item? So we're right around the corner from Thanksgiving, and I'll leave this poll open here for a few minutes and then, or a few seconds, I guess. And then, so this is just to acclimate everyone to polling in Zoom if you've never done polling in Zoom.
Oh, that's really cool. I have not used that feature before.
Cool. So let's see, we've got about, looks like 11 out of 12 people have participated. So I'm going to end the poll and show the results. So we've got, you guys can see that. So it looks like 6 out of 11 of us are stuffing dressing people. We got one turkey person, so that's all right. GBC, as my wife refers to it. Although I make my GBC with cream of celery soup because I'm not a big mushroom fan. So, all right. So thanks for participating in that. The next little icebreaker, really quick poll is a little bit more topic centric. So I'll go ahead and launch that and see what you guys are, are you guys currently conducting any sort of regular Gemba walks in your facilities? Oh, Melissa, you can't see it. Okay. I see that. All right, so I'll go ahead and end that poll and share the results. So looks like a majority of us are doing some sort of Gemba walks, maybe not so regular or routine, and a few of us are not. So this is a good this is a good opportunity for us to kind of use each other and kind of have some discussions around. Those of you who have and are doing Gemba walks, it'll be nice to get your perspective on some things too. So, so thanks for participating in those polls. They're very easy to put together. If you're ever a Zoom facilitator, it's pretty simple to put together and facilitate. So, and it just makes it a little bit more fun with more interaction with virtual groups. So, really quick, I wanted to cover a couple. You guys can see that, right? The Gemba walk tips and tricks.
Yes,
So
sir.
I wanted to. So the purpose of today really is to help you guys to develop a routine to perform some regular Gemba walks. And the purpose of Gemba walks is to identify opportunities to improve the work and the environment that you work in. So we're going to talk about the term Gemba, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of a definition. We'll identify tips for a successful Gemba walk, which I shamelessly stole from a KaiNexus blog, which KaiNexus is one of our MLC partners, so I'm sure they'll be fine with that. We'll talk about some common questions that you might ask while you're performing a Gemba walk, and then I'm going to split you guys up into some groups, and we'll develop a Gemba walk agenda. We will not, unfortunately, we will not be able to conduct a Gemba walk today, but at least you'll have a plan for how you're going to maybe execute that when you go back to your facility. So the term Gemba, and I don't know if you guys have seen this this book before, the Lean Lexicon. It's one of my favorite books. It's kind of like a dictionary for all things lean, including all the Japanese words that nobody remembers what they mean. So Gemba is a Japanese word, and it means the actual place, often used for the shop floor or any place where the value creating work is happening. So it could be in the engineering center, it could be in the finance area. It's wherever the actual work is being conducted. And the reason we use this term, the Gemba, is because if you're trying to make improvements, or if you're trying to solve problems, the best place to do that is in the Gemba or on the Gemba, and it's not in a conference room. And so organizations have started adopting these routine Gemba walks that are really helpful and really focused on just looking for opportunities to improve. So what is a Gemba walk? A Gemba walk is an essential part of the lean management system. I have, these three Gemba basics up in the top are the three rules, I guess, that most people that perform Gemba walks abide by. One is go see the actual condition as it's happening. If you can, go see the problem as it's occurring. If you can, go interview the people that are doing the work and understand, to gain knowledge about the process and to explore opportunities for continuous improvement. Asking questions, not interrogation type questions, but asking questions more like discovery type questions, like being in a place of humility and asking what's happening in this area so that you can better understand the work, not necessarily so that you can test their knowledge of the work, right? It's asking questions to better understand the challenges that the work presents, and some of the obstacles that the person doing the work has to overcome. And then showing respect is it's always been a tenet of Lean, and it will always be a tenet of Lean, and showing respect for the people that are doing the work. One of the things that whenever I'm taking a group out to a Gemba tour, I always try to encourage them, do not try to provide suggestions on how the problems can be addressed, and now is not the time to necessarily provide solutions. It's just the time for discovery of the process. And so, and showing respect means the work is being done the way that it's being done today, because that's the way that the people that are doing the work recognize is the best possible way to do that work today. If there was a better way that they knew, then certainly they would probably be working towards getting to that better place. And so we need to show respect for where the history of that process has come, and and why the process exists the way that it does today. So understanding those things are really important when it comes to Gemba walks. And so the Gemba basics: go see, ask, question, show respect. Those are not mine. Those are, I don't even know where they came from. They might have come from LEI or Jim Womack himself, but those are the 3 kind of rules of Gemba, and you'll see that again on the next slide. But Gemba walks are typically structured, I would say, and they usually have a theme to them. It's not just a person walking around the facility and greeting people and, hey, how's your morning going, and things like that. It's more of a specific thing that you're attempting to look for specific wastes or specific topics. Like you could do a safety Gemba walk, you could do a 5S Gemba walk, but you usually have a theme, and it's not really a time to do some problem solving or find fault or call out the employees when they're not doing, for example, if they're not following the standard work, then it's not the time to say, well, this is what the standard work says. It really is more of a time for you as the leader to build trust within the organization and to gain knowledge about the process. So this is the tips and tricks that I stole from KaiNexus, and they have a blog that they put out every periodically. And so when we say, you look at that number 2, have a specific plan or topic for your Gemba walk. One of the things that I've seen work really well, and I guess I'll ask for your input on this as well, but I've seen where a Gemba walk is typically scheduled for like the same time each week. Like, let's say it's on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and everybody knows that it's at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. But each week it might have a different theme. So like maybe the first week of the month is a 5S Gemba walk. The second week of the month is a standard work Gemba walk. The third is more of maybe a safety Gemba walk or something like that. So let me ask, I guess, for those of you that have performed Gemba walks, is that kind of how you have executed them, or do you do something maybe a little bit differently? I guess I'll open that up to everyone.
In the DART facilities, we would try and pick a different theme for them to go after, but it kind of varied plant by plant. I don't think everybody bought into that.
Okay.
But the plants that I was coaching, I definitely said, like, let's do safety this week. Let's focus on this week, because otherwise the list gets too long.
Sure. Yeah, and it's not like an audit, right? It's not a safety audit. It's just you're out on the floor gaining knowledge about the safety culture of the organization and trying to identify where you can intervene to make the safety better for the employee, and maybe with a new set of eyes that aren't looking at the process day in and day out. So let's hear from others that have participated in Gemba walks, and how does that work for you guys? Is there a specific theme, or is it more like MBWA, management by walking around, or is it specific theme that you guys have used?
We actually set an area, and try to look at all the different things in that area. So we didn't have a lot of commitment behind it, so I had to grab people to go. So
okay, yeah. So did you have like a specific spot on the floor or in the area where you would walk to, and that was the Gemba spot?
Right.
Okay.
We change it every week.
Okay. I've actually even seen where organizations will paint a big circle on the floor and write the word Gemba in it. And that's the place where whenever there's a Gemba walk, the person who's observing the process will go to that spot. And so everyone knows that when they're in that spot, then they're performing a Gemba, which means they're observing the processes for improvement. They're not observing the processes for judgment, right?
Mm.
So I've seen that's probably less. It's probably a little bit more rare that I see the Gemba circle painted on the floor, but I have seen that in some cases that I've in some facilities that I've been into.
When we started out, Kevin, at one of my companies, we actually had an agenda that every area had. So it was 8 forms of waste, but because there were so many safety opportunities, we had to address safety each time we were on the floor.
Okay.
And we had a maintenance person walk with us. And
Okay,
you know,
good.
that was
Yeah.
hard, but it worked really well because they could fix things on the spot. Sharp edges was a huge issue.
Yeah.
Sharp edges, they carry a little Dremel and, you know, right there in front of the person. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I came from an aerospace background. I built private jets for a living for about 7 years, which is a really cool job, by the way. But it was a Brazilian company, so I would get to go to Brazil a lot, and I would see the differences in work cultures in Brazil versus the U.S. and you know, safety adherence is much different in those two cultures. And but we always had our VP would come once a quarter and he would do a Gemba, like a big, like it was a super like dog and pony show. And we always hated it because he would always ask tough questions. And then we would always go do a debrief at the end. He would ask the guys on the floor like the tough questions and expose all of our shortcomings. And then we would go into the conference room and we'd be like, all right, well, what are we going to do about this stuff, right? And so we hated it because it always put our feet to the fire as leadership, but it was good, right? It made us better. It made us stronger, and it made us a better team operating. One of the things that I see companies doing a lot, and I try to discourage them from doing this type of activity, is a Gemba walk should not be a production status meeting, right? It should not be going from cell to cell that says, okay, well, what are you working on today? How many are you going to get out today? Are you ahead or behind schedule? Like that should be all handled with visual management. That should not be topics of discussion for a Gemba walk. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that. I see a few
Totally
people nodding heads. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, good.
Totally agree.
And so when my job now is with the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center is I'm a business advisor that works with a lot of different manufacturers and non-manufacturers. And so one of the first questions I ask is, are you guys performing Gemba walks? And they say yes. And I say, okay, well, walk me through what the agenda for a Gemba walk is. They're like, well, we go from station to station and we talk about like, what's the plan for the day? And I said, okay, that's a production status meeting. And I try to, encourage them. The Gemba walk is really to identify the wastes that are associated with those processes, identify the obstacles that people are dealing with, and ask a lot of questions and solicit feedback from the group. And so let me go back to my screen here, the tips and tricks, because that's why we're all here, right? So, Holly mentioned, the 8 wastes. So I always encourage people, brush up on the 8 wastes before you go. And sometimes we've even had Gemba walks where we say, okay, the Gemba walk today, the theme is we're going to go look for the waste of motion, right? And that's all we're going to do is we're just going to go take a tour of the facility and look for opportunities of people that are moving around the facility and kind of inquire as to, what's happening, where are they going, what are they trying to get, what are they, and sometimes it's, well, I'm going to the bathroom. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But sometimes it's, I'm walking across the facility because I got to go get this piece of equipment. And so those types of questions, those open-ended questions will give you a lot of insight as to where you can help intervene and maybe provide some guidance on maybe eliminating those obstacles. So again, after the walk, you want to come back to a place, whether it's it could be a conference room, it could be just at the end of the walk, you just kind of convene and you kind of share your observations and then make a plan to like take some action on some of those things that you observe, and then schedule the next walk. Sometimes the walks are already scheduled. What questions do you guys have about the tips from KaiNexus? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on. So there are, I don't remember where this was. I read an article that was written. It was a study about Toyota 100 years ago, it feels like now. But there were 3 questions in this article that that were always asked when a manager on the Toyota plant would go to the floor. He would say, how do you do this work? Right? These questions, some of them are not on here, right? So how do you do this work is kind of a combination of what are you working on, and do you have an established process? Is there a standard work for this process? And do you have any problems with this established process, right? So how do you do this work? The next question was, how do you know that you've done this work correctly? And that is a really interesting question to ask people on the floor, because especially if they've done this work for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're like, well, how do you know you've done it correctly? And they're like, well, because I've been doing it for 20 years, so I know how to do it. And it's like, but what is it that tells you that you are, that when the process is done in your hands and you've passed it on to the next person, how do you know without a shadow of a doubt that you're giving them a perfect part or a perfect piece of information or a perfect report or a perfect whatever the case is, right? How do you know that the work that you've done is done the right way, the way that it's intended to be done? And usually there's some sort of procedure or standard or documentation that will kind of determine. And maybe if there's not, that's the opportunity, right? If there's not a defined quality criteria for whatever the process is, then maybe that's the opportunity to improve. If they can't give you a straight answer on how do they know that they've done the work correctly, then maybe there's an opportunity there. And then the third question is, what do you do if there's a problem? And where do you go when you've got a problem? And the answer can't always just be, well, I get my supervisor, right? Or I get the next person up in the chain of command to help me. So that question kind of towards the end here, it says, how can you fix the problem? Kind of makes them take pause for a second and say, well, this is what I would do initially to try to maybe contain the issue. But there should be a follow-up to that says, how are we going to prevent this thing from happening? Or, if it's a problem or an obstacle that's gotten in their way. And then if they can't solve the problem legitimately, like, who do you contact? You're going to call maintenance, you're going to call quality, you're going to call the supervisor, you're going to call the manager. Who do you know who the right person is to help you solve the problem? So these are good questions to kind of keep in your back pocket whenever you're doing these. The 3 most popular ones, or the 3 most important ones, in my opinion, are: how do you do this work? How do you know it's done correctly? What do you do if you encounter a problem? Do any of you that have performed Gemba walks, are there other questions that you think are important to ask? No? Okay, that's fine. All right, so
Quiet today for some reason, Kevin.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on.
that's
Must
okay.
have been a rough week.
Yeah, that's okay. They're looking outside, looking at the weather that was yesterday, and looking at the impending snow this weekend, and going, I'm not sure I'm crazy about this. I didn't really have kind of a feel for how long this was all going to take, but I do have an activity that I want to split you guys up into groups and have you kind of draft a Gemba walk agenda. Like, if you were to, if your boss came to you and said, hey, I want you to start doing Gemba walks, what would that look like? How would you plan that? What information would you need? What would the theme be? Who would be involved? And what would you specifically look for? What questions would you ask? And so I'm going to split you guys into, let's see, how many? We have 13 people, or counting me and Andy. Is that right? So 14 people counting me and Andy. So I'm going to, let's see, that's 12 people. I'll put you into 3 groups of 4. We're going to do breakout rooms. If you guys have never done a breakout room in Zoom, just click on the link when it says join the room. I'm going to put you in the rooms randomly. And what I would like you to do here, I'm going to share my screen because I do have some instructions for this activity. So I want you to develop a plan for what you would do for a Gemba walk, including what's the theme. And when you pick the theme, you should kind of also identify what specifically are you going to look for on that Gemba tour or Gemba walk. How long do you want the Gemba walk to last? Please don't say 3 hours, because that's a long time to spend. I usually recommend, no more than an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, maybe even 15 minutes. So we're all busy with things, and if you're going to do this every week, or maybe sometimes people even do these every day, if you're going to do them every day, then maybe it shouldn't be an hour. Maybe it should only be 15 or 20 minutes. And then obviously we're not going to be able to conduct a Gemba walk, but what we are going to do is at the end, I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes or so. We'll come back to this main room, and I'd like to have a scribe and a spokesperson for the group that kind of describes your plan. So what questions do you guys have about the activity? Has everybody here done breakout rooms in Zoom before? Are we pretty comfortable with that? No?
I have a
Jason, I see
question
you.
on documenting. What are
Sure.
we supposed to, you want us just to read our agenda or document?
Yeah, you don't need to like get real fancy with it. It's really just a conversation. So someone just take notes in your room and then act as the person, the spokesperson for the group. So first thing you need to do is identify who's going to be the speaker when we come back to this room. So, and then, but yeah, I'm not expecting any sort of whiz bang technology thing or anything. Just capture some notes, and we'll have a discussion when you guys come back. Okay, so I'm gonna set up 3 breakout rooms with 12 people, or with 12 people, with 4 people each. And so let's see, I need to, looks like, so room 1 will be Caitlin, Eric, Holly, Tyler. Room 2 will be Jane, Linda, Melissa, Rachel, and room 3 will be Brittany, Greg, and Jason. So I'm going to go ahead and open all the rooms, and I'll give you guys 10 minutes. I'll give you a couple-minute warning, and then we'll come back and have kind of a little bit of a debrief at the end. All right? So we'll see you guys soon.
Team 1 is back.
Yeah, it looks like we got lost a couple people along the way, but we've got most people back. All right. So team 1 or room 1 was Caitlin, Eric, Holly. What did you guys come up with for your theme, your duration or frequency? Who is involved, and what specifically would you look for?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So our team, we decided on the theme of safety.
Okay.
Our duration and frequency, we decided for 45 minutes once a week. And that involves leadership, management, and HR. Holly made the great point that if you're only seeing HR when you're onboarded and when you're in trouble, that's not really building a good relationship with HR.
Good point.
Yeah, so I thought that was great. That you really want to build that trust. And we are looking for unsafe practices. We're looking for wastes. We're asking employees about obstacles, about things that they're worried about, things that they're seeing, asking them a lot of the great questions that you brought up earlier. And that's what I wrote down. If the
Okay.
team had anything to add.
Anybody else from that group? Eric or Holly, did you have any other thoughts or input?
It's a great summary.
Okay, very good. All right, so group number 2 was Jane, Linda, Melissa, and Rachel. What was your theme, and what were you guys planning on doing?
Our theme was standard work,
Okay.
and we wanted to do it in the administrative processes, so we picked payroll. And duration, we didn't get to. Frequency, we were talking about 2 times a month for that process. And then we were talking about, should we have HR? I think so, or management. Would it be intimidating? And we decided on yes, they should be involved.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Is, you know, sometimes you want to you want the true, honest answer, and depending on the culture of your organization, if there's some intimidation going on or things like that, then you maybe want to maybe have them at every other Gemba walk, the management, and have some time where you're able to get the answer when the leadership is there, and maybe sometimes get the real answer.
So just a quick question, Linda, do you mean like the entire team goes together or individually?
Together.
Okay.
I think if I'm answering wrong, my team, can you chime in? I was thinking together, but
At least a couple people from management.
Yeah. And so that's a good question, Holly, and a good point, Linda. You guys want to maybe think about how many people should be on the Gemba walk, because if you've got 10 people, it could be a little intimidating and a little bit overwhelming for someone if you walk into their area and you're all standing behind their desk going, what is it that you're doing today? And how do you know that you're doing it correctly? And be like, well, wait a second. So think about
We
that,
just
right?
thought we needed at least a member of management
Sure.
in the team so that wouldn't want employees to feel too comfortable. And when you have someone from management coming in, sometimes it puts the angst behind you to get your work done.
Yeah, so I think like the ideal group size is probably like 4 to 6 people, maybe even 3, depending on the area and the nature of the work. So
I have a question.
Good thoughts. Sure, Linda.
One of the things that I would do is ask them if they had any ideas for improving their work.
Mhm.
So that would be one question I would ask.
Yes. And I would ask it in an open-ended format, right? If you say, do you have any ideas? And I say, yeah, sure, I do. But if you say, what are some obstacles? What are the challenges associated with this work? What are the things that cause you pain? What are the things that when you go home at the end of the day, you complain to your family or your friends about why your day was a crappy day? What are those things that you complain about? Because those are the things that we want to address, right?
Mhm.
What are the things that get in the way of you doing your work? Well, I'm trying to do my work, but I keep getting distracted because I have to go ask this question, or I have to go get this thing, or I have to go find this person. And so that's the real like insightful things that we want to get out of that person. So yeah, good point.
Someone just wrote debrief at the end with pluses and deltas, perhaps. And I think that that's really important, because I think sometimes when you have the leadership on these Gemba walks, it is giving people a chance to have a voice that they don't always get. And I think also the people on the walk to do the pluses and deltas is really important. So I'm glad somebody brought that up.
Yeah. Also, Jane, I just wanted to also bring in there is remember that your management team, your leadership team may not know how to do Gemba walks as well. So it's a huge learning curve for them. And having those debriefs basically gives positive reinforcement to the conversation and the ideas that they come up with. So it's learning on both sides of the aisle.
Sure. Yep. Great point. One thing I wanted to mention about standard work, because that was the theme of your Gemba walk. I've seen this work really well with standard work. And let's be honest, standard work for someone that's done the work for 15 years, they don't need the work instruction at their desk that tells them step by step how to do the work, right? And I've seen actually places where the standard work will face outwardly. It will face away from the actual person doing the work, and it'll face towards the aisle or towards the whatever. And the standard work documentation there is for when the leadership does the Gemba walk, so that they can review the standard work so that they understand the process better. But the standard work is there in the cell, in the work area as a reference. But the person who's been doing this work for 5, 10, 15 years, they're not going to need that step-by-step instruction. So just a point about standard work. I've seen it actually where the standard work faces the aisle, and the person doing the work doesn't even really have the standard work in front of them when they're doing the work. It's more as a reference tool. So just a thought about that. Okay, the last group is Brittany, Greg, and Jason. So what did you guys come up with? Who's your spokesperson and what was your theme?
Hi, I'm Brittany. Parks, and I'm the spokesperson for the group. And
Okay.
we talked about how there's kind of two different levels of Gemba walks, different forms. So there's one of where you walk the line and you ask inquiring questions. And then there's another type of Gemba walk that is based on metrics. Usually it's a set, defined set of metrics. I'm familiar with safety, quality, and productivity. However, these metrics can be customized to any type of industry just to have some type of daily management metrics where there's a assigned group of people that would be able to best speak to these metrics and say, hey, we're doing good. Hey, we're falling behind, or man, we're really not doing great here. And that gives an opportunity to start asking the questions like, do you have everything you need? Where's your barriers? Where's your challenges? And it kind of gives you a focus area to then really dive into the individual work area to find these ways to hope and improve upon the metric. And we talked to be a daily management. It should be talked about in the beginning of the day. And if there's multiple shifts, it should be talked about at each shift. And what else did we talk about? Oh, and then from there, we did talk about, should leadership be there or not? That's a tough one. Like other groups had mentioned, when leadership is there, it can be intimidating. But however, if you set it up with roles and responsibilities, and that leadership is intention of being there is to listen and to break down barriers and challenges, and to listen and to help give solutions or problem solve. I think that that goes a long ways. Yeah, and if my group has anything else that I may have missed, I think that's pretty much the brief.
Great. And approaching it from a place of humility is an important aspect, right? It's like, what can I do as the leader to help with this situation? I'm not here to tell you how to fix the situation. I'm here because I'm trying to learn the situation. A lot of times managers, directors, leaders of the organization are a little bit disconnected from the step-by-step, hour-by-hour work that happens. And so that's why, one of the things about, you saw on a slide earlier, what is a Gemba walk? It's a time for the leadership to learn about the process and understand what those challenges are, and then not necessarily come up with a solution on the spot, but kind of think about that a little bit, reflect on that, and together with the group, understanding what can be done to relieve the burden of the work, right? Great. So good, nice job, everyone. You guys all did a great job. So I have one last poll, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Jane. I don't know if Jane, if you want to talk about any upcoming events that are happening, and then we'll kind of get out of here at 9:30. So
Great.
my last poll is, how likely are you to start conducting regular Gemba walks? If you're not already, or if you are having regular Gemba walks, how likely are you to start having a little bit more of a cadence and a routine to doing Gemba walks? All right, I'll give you a few more seconds here. We got 7 out of 9 participants. 5 more seconds. All right, so it looks like hopefully you guys are getting ready to start these things soon here. It looks like some others need a little bit more information, so I will let Jane take care of that, or if you guys, I can put my contact information in the chat as well. If you guys want to learn more, if you want have other questions that you think about after we get off the call, I'm certainly willing to help and share those ideas. So let me put in the chat my contact
You know, we talked about this in our group, and one of the things that I would say is that I, speaking from like personal experience, I think it's much easier to get Gemba walks going in a manufacturing environment versus the office environment. So I think it's a good thing to start. I think it takes more thought.
Yep. And I would agree that that is kind of a theme in Lean just in general. So I've been in manufacturing, and Lean in manufacturing, it's been around since the dawn of time almost. It's been around since the 40s, almost 100 years that worked. Obviously they called Lean in, it wasn't until the 80s, but Toyota has been doing this stuff for almost 100 years. And so in a manufacturing setting, this stuff is almost second nature anymore, right? But when you start to transition this stuff to transactional administrative processes, everything is less clear. Everything is more challenging and more complicated. And so I guess my challenge to you is just start with something, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and challenge yourself to do those plus and deltas at the end and say, what was good about this thing and what could we do differently next time? And I think that's maybe the key, is just start with something, right? And start, put it on the calendar. It says every Tuesday at 2:00, we're going to do a 15-minute or a 30-minute walk. And we're not going to really know what we're doing at first. But after a month of doing that, you'll be like, okay, we'll get into a little bit of a groove and a routine, and you'll see that it really is beneficial to the organization and to you as a leader to know, to be able to build more trust with the people that are doing the work.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
All right, well, it's 9:23, and Jane, I don't know if you wanted to, I don't know if we're going to do a plus and delta here for this particular Gemba walk. If you tips and tricks, if you want to do a plus delta, I'm happy to do that. Or
yeah, why don't we do that real quick, Kevin?
Right, so in chat, if you guys
to get great live feedback, right?
Yep. So in the chat, if you guys wouldn't mind putting 1 plus and 1 delta from today's 1-hour coffee chat here, and then I'll turn it back over to Jane, and she can talk about what's coming up next for MLC. I know there's a big event next week, so. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes there to 1 plus and 1 delta. Melissa, I agree. All these things always go by so fast.
Oh, I wasn't even reading yours. And I sent mine too quick the first time, so that's funny.
No, this is good feedback. So thank you. Yeah, Caitlin, I think I think we had 25 people register for this event, and I think we had about a dozen or so show up. So it is always nicer when you've got a larger group, because all those shared experiences and people that can contribute to the conversation always gives more than just my tips and tricks, right? It's tips and tricks from the whole organization or from the whole group. So.
We've had some conversations about, like, why do people sign up and then not come? And I don't know if it's because they don't have to pay for it. So then at the end, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to go. Because we had 25 sign up, and a lot of people signed up at the last minute. So I agree with you. And I find that a little frustrating and disappointing sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I'm thankful for the ones that did show up.
I always like the fact that everybody who shows up is energetic about the topic. So I really appreciate that.
People that are here because they want to know, and they want to collaborate, they want to network and stuff. So yeah. Good.
Absolutely. So next, Kevin, thank you very much. Awesome. I loved all the points, and I really wrote down, start from a point of humility. That's the most important thing to remember. I really appreciated that. That was the
Sure.
first comment I wrote down and something that really resonates with me. For those of you who aren't signed up, we have the Grand Rapids Summit next Friday. Lean Summit in Grand Rapids. It's from 8:30 to I think 2:30. There's a Gemba walk afterwards. And we have a keynote speaker. We're going to have 4 different sessions. So you're going to be able to pick 3 out of the 4 sessions that you want to go to, rotating, a bunch of good presentations. So if you have a chance, please join us.
Great. Thanks, Jane.
Jane, quick question. When will and maybe it's an Andy question, because I put it higher in the chat. We will be doing a Gemba walk at Consumers Energy Lansing Service Center
Yeah.
on December
December
2nd. When will that be out on the MLC for people to sign up?
I don't know. I think it should already be out there. Andy, can you answer that question?
I think Andy said earlier she had to step away.
I think it's
Okay.
there. I looked last night.
Oh, okay.
It
Oh,
is
good.
there. Yep. I'm
Good.
on the website right now. It is there. $25 for members, $35 for non-members, December 2nd from 9 to 12 in Lansing. So cool.
I'm excited about it. And there's people at work who I've already told about it too, Melissa. So we're looking forward to that.
Yay.
So maybe it'll be a chance for you to go witness some of these things that we talked about this morning. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
great.
And then we have a coffee chat scheduled for December, another one, and it's going to be lean tricks for surviving the holidays. So something
Put
we
yourself
all
away from-
need.
Put yourself away from the table. That's the leading trick.
All right, you guys, happy Friday. Have a
Yeah,
great day.
absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks for participating.
you.
See you guys soon.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.